and welcome back to Beyond the Breathalyzer. We have been taking a deep dive into warrants, what the police can and cannot do. But the time has come to move away from the police for a moment, time to take a big step back. And remember, the Fourth Amendment was never meant to be convenient for the police, never meant to be polite. It assumed an overeager executive branch who wanted to move fast, under the cover of darkness, taking whatever they could find and sorting it out later. The founders specifically designed it to be inconvenient, and part of that inconvenience is known as the neutral and detached magistrate. He or she sits as a roadblock between the citizens and the state, between suspicion and intrusion. A single signature that says whether the police are coming in, and if they are coming in, what they are taking when they leave. But when the signature becomes a rubber stamp, the Fourth Amendment has stopped working. And with judge shopping, after-hour approvals, and cut and paste electronic applications, the neutral and detached magistrate requirement begins looking more and more like a one-sided, apathetic participant in a system where the default answer is supposed to be no. So today we are asking a question about warrants that perhaps isn't an altogether comfortable question, but one that any discussion on warrants must include. What happens to the Constitution when warrants are reduced to hall passes, when the one person tasked to protect the citizenry from the government overreach simply doesn't do it? My name is Shelley Behan, and this is Fourth Amendment Friday. The entire point of the warrant requirement was to stop the government from doing whatever it wanted whenever it liked. The framers just didn't trust the police to police themselves. The Supreme Court made it very clear. Probable cause determinations must be made by a neutral and detached magistrate, not by officers engaged in what the court has called the competitive enterprise of ferreting out criminal activity. This was a requirement of independent judgment, a necessary check on executive power, separate and distinct from the police. It is not a paperwork exercise, it's checks and balances. So, what does neutral and detached mean? A neutral and detached magistrate is one that is not rooting for the state. In one famous case, Logi Sales versus New York, the judge who issued the warrant actually went with the officers to conduct a search. Perhaps the items being sought, obscene material, intrigued the judge, but nevertheless, that is a no, big no. Neutral and detached doesn't mean every warrant is read with the eye of assisting the police in getting to probable cause. Instead, it is read with a view of determining whether they are already there. It requires an independent assessment of probable cause, a review to ensure the particularity requirement has been met, and to reject any boilerplate language. In the fashion world, there is a saying, there's runway and there's real life. The description above, runway. Constitutional to be sure, but in real life there are several things that steal the spotlight from the Fourth Amendment. Things like judge shopping. Savvy officers learn quickly which judges will question their factual assertions and which ones will not, and the experienced ones then teach the rookies. When officers return again and again to the same court and again are given approval for borderline probable cause questions, neutrality has been undermined and detachment disappears altogether. In a similar vein, rubber stamped warrants, warrants signed without scrutiny, are not constitutional. A magistrate must do more than simply scribble his or her name on a line. There must be an evaluation of probable cause. Mere conclusory statements must be rejected, and any warrant applications relying solely on facts which lack temporal detail or on training and experience absent any additional details should be denied. After-hours warrants aren't per se a problem. I see them a lot in my DUI practice. Usually there's an on-call judge in Phoenix who handles the warrant requests. But in other locations, perhaps more rural, there is a fatigue issue when the judge was woken up at 2 a.m. Maybe no meaningful questioning of the affiant occurred. Maybe the magistrate was pressured to approve the warrant quickly and without a real independent review. And it is especially problematic considering the prevalence of electronic warrants accompanied by cut and paste affidavits and applications. When all warrants contain the same language across the board and there is no case-specific tailoring, judges are reviewing pre-packaged conclusions and not a totality of circumstances. The fact that the police are in possession of a warrant is not the end of the analysis, as you already know from our past episodes. The neutral and detached magistrate is the key to ensuring the Fourth Amendment remain what it was designed to be, an inconvenient, impolite obstacle to the police. Otherwise, the warrant is simply a formality, and the Fourth Amendment becomes something celebrated only in our classrooms. And that does it for this week's episode of Fourth Amendment Friday. Tune in next time when we will discuss the exceptions to the warrant requirement. Until then, stay free, stay fabulous, and remember your fundamentals. My name is Shelley Behan. I am the host of Beyond the Breathalyzer, and your rights are my priority.